Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. The Labour government are doing something which I have actually been calling for years, and so I find myself in a quandary of actually agreeing with what they're doing to a point, and I'll explain why in a moment, but actually disagreeing about how they're going about and doing it. For you see, they are proposing that they change the law that will end inherited titles for the House of Lords. Now, any lord who's got a title and it's an inherited title, obviously the title will continue to carry on. No one's saying that these lords lose their titles or anything like that. But it is their inherited right to sit within the House of Lords that is going to be addressed. So simply because you're a lord does not give you a place in the Lord. Now, in the Lords, sorry. But now previously it did. And then when Blair got in, they changed the rules and they reduced the number of inherited positions within the House of Lords. And now Starmer wants to get rid of all the inherited positions altogether. Absolutely right. Completely agree. Totally agree with this. Why is he not getting rid of the bishops? Why is he not getting rid of the right of bishops simply to sit in the House of Lords simply because they're bishops? Let's get rid of that as well. That sounds ideal. Not going for that. That's very odd. Now, the irony, of course, is currently those lords, those inherited lords who sit in the Lords, are the only ones who are democratically elected to the House of Lords. This is a very weird thing. When the numbers of the lords were reduced, it was decided that when a lordship became available through an inheritance, there would be a ballot for those eligible lords to select one of their own number to replace that seat. And so actually inherited lordships are the only democratically elected people in the House of Lords. Now, my personal view, and it's one you can agree with or disagree with, I don't care. This is the whole point. You have your own views. Be interesting to see what you think in the comments, please. But my view about the House of Lords is abolish the House of Lords in its current format and bring in a completely new format which would consist of a fixed term, maximum 2 terms, 7-year terms. However, there's no general election for the Lords. It's as soon as a seat becomes available, that seat in itself starts a new term. And so over time, it would be a mishmash. There'd be an election. Rather than changing the whole of the House of Lords at a general election, it becomes much more organic. And so it's very reflective of that seat at that time. I would suggest that those lords currently in place continue, but their numbers be reduced. Because they're not a position to create a new legislation, they only act on the legislation that's put before them. You don't need a lot of them. You only need enough to do a glance over and a check. And I would suggest, say, the second house, the upper house, consisting of 300 permanent, full-time, professional lords, as we would call them. I don't think we should call them lords. I believe we should call it a senate and have senators. They cannot bring forward laws. They can only check the laws that the House of Commons presents to them. And I suggest 300 would be enough. And like I say, it's 2 terms of a maximum of 7 years. At the end of the first 7 years, you go and get elected. If you win again, that's your beginning of your second term, and then you're done. And if you lose, you're out and you're done, and you can't come back. If you lose your first term, you're done. That encourages people not to become professional lords. That's number one. Any lord who dies in office is an immediate election, and that then begins the beginning of his 7 years. And so you're not getting this big changeover at general elections. I think that's a much better system. You have a general election for the House of Commons, but the Lords change on a continual basis. Therefore, eventually over time, it'll be completely random, constant churn, more reflective of society. But they must be elected. And I would have various rules. So, for example, no government minister may ever become a lord. So if you get elected to become a minister in a government, you know that's your lordship done. The reason It stops people becoming professional politicians, going into their nice little pension at the end of their career. Things like that. An MP, yes, okay, we'll give you the MP, but not a minister. Once you hit minister, you're disbarred from the House of Lords. Anyone with a criminal conviction at all. We're not talking driving, speeding, or anything like that, but anything that involved going into prison, automatically disbarred. Anything like that. Anyone who's a lunatic. Oh no, at the moment, though, it seems to be almost compulsory for some of them. But things like that, you put controls on. But they have to be elected by the people, not appointed by politicians. Have a bicameral democratic society. That would be a much better system. Why, of course, politicians don't want that is because at the moment they can stuff the House of Lords filled with their own cronies designed to basically override democracy. You know, people don't like this law, but if you fill the House of Lords with 600 Labour supporters, say, 600 Labour lords, then, you know, you're going to get your votes through. That's not democratic. That's dictatorship. Let's abandon the House of Lords and let's make the upper chamber a Senate and let's make it elected. Now, that would be democratic. I don't know if any of the major parties would go for that for the reason I've stated. Reform might, but I don't think the others would. But I think it's what the people of this country deserve. We deserve democracy. To have an imposed Senate, effectively, what we've got, an imposed layer of government that we cannot vote in and we cannot vote out, seems incredibly undemocratic. We're supposed to be a modern Western state, and yet we're still led by medieval ways. I think it's time for that to go. We are not vassals of the state any longer. We are free men. I am not a number. And that's how it should be. As I say, it's controversial within the parties. I think most people in the country would agree with my point of view, but if you don't, definitely want to hear why. And I think absolutely a 2-term limit. But if you lose the first term, you're done and you can't go back. People have rejected you. You get your one bite of that particularly well-paid, I suppose, cherry. And you only get paid on attendance. You know, you miss a day, you're out. Well, you're not out, but you don't get paid for it. Anyway, seems fair to me. Let me know your views. Thank you very much. Take care. Till next time, stay safe, stay well. And I will speak to you all later. Bye.